welcome to episode 1 of the Teen Talk Politics podcast. And today we're talking about MCC. Okay, it's UCC. We're talking about the Uniform Civil Code, not the college, right? So,
I got excited, man.
okay, fine, no need.
I mean, it's an ex-girls school, not
yeah.
a current one.
Yeah.
The
So,
excitement is there.
I think about the UCC too because of the pillows. Never mind. So,
These two are
what
blue.
is the UCC?
Okay,
Right.
if you kill someone, you will be punished. If I kill someone, I'll be punished. Simple. Basically, uniform laws for every citizen.
No, what is the full form? That's
Uniform civil code.
okay.
That's what it stands for.
I
Okay.
would differ from the analogy that given, first of all,
Uh-huh.
right? It is, see, it's not about more about, the laws being equal to everyone. It's about, how the specific religious laws
Mm-hmm.
doesn't align with other religion laws. It's like interfering with
No,
the
see,
other laws.
that's he was talking about UCC as a whole. That is the UCC
Acha.
problem in India.
Uh-huh.
When you talk about UCC in India, you tend to talk about existence of personal laws and how you want to replace them with one uniform law.
Okay.
So
got it.
that's pretty much.
So, to give you an introduction, essentially here we are not talking about, although Mithun's analogy lands fine, but in a more technical sense, we are not talking about criminal acts. We already have a uniform criminal code, which is called the IPC.
Okay.
So it applies to everyone, regardless if you're a Muslim or a Hindu. Not to say you're a Muslim, sorry.
Yeah, got it.
It's not that I will apply Sharia to you to charge you of a crime and him, Hindu code, to charge him of something else. Criminal law is uniform.
Got it.
But when we talk about civil laws, which usually stems to basically things like family, that is marriage, succession, so and when it comes to children, so whether it be adoption or wardship or things like that. So essentially, family, property, and also things like contracts. And if you're a law student, this thing called torts. All these things come.
TOTS.
TORTS.
So it's,
Okay,
it's
what is that?
basically English common law.
Mm-hmm.
So when Britishers took over India, they introduced English law here, but it did not apply to the majority of the problems.
Got
Because
it. Okay.
the origin of those problems were religion based,
Mhm.
which is why they introduced all the personal laws in India.
Got
I
it,
mean, it's
got it.
essentially things that don't come under either criminal or civil cases. Like, for example, if there's a baby using a phone and the baby throws the phone at someone 2 floors down and it hits that person, now you cannot charge the baby according to Indian law. You'll have to charge the father. But
Okay.
you can't count it even as a criminal act because it's
Yeah.
not that grave of an act, right?
Okay.
So things like that will come under torts, which is
Okay.
neither civil nor criminal.
Got
One
it.
weird example.
Most of
Yeah.
the time, it's just compensation to solve those cases.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I took away from this, apart from the fact that Idra was probably a very weird baby, is the fact that you're basically trying to ensure that certain things are uniform under this Indian Civil Code.
Right.
And I would assume that basically for the Hindus, you have the Hindu something act, right? If 1950s somewhere.
There are too
Hindu
many.
law.
They're two
Yeah.
Hindu law,
Hindu
basically.
law, right? And what I got from that is in India, Hindu law is codified, right? There is a certain precinct, there is precedent for the way to deal with religious or personal laws in Hinduism. But in Muslim culture, and I know we're excluding a lot of other religions here, but just for the sake of discussion, it's primarily based off the Quran or other religious texts, right? If I'm not wrong. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So then, what do you think? Do you think it's the right thing to do? Don't you think that it's kind of just robbing people of their own personal culture?
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
See, so that's the biggest argument for against UCC.
Mhm.
People like our religious freedom, you're exploiting that, blah blah blah.
Mhm.
But if a certain practice is discriminatory and derogatory,
Mhm.
it should not exist.
But how do you classify that?
Okay, now when sati was abolished, obviously there were people who were saying, "Oh no, it's a part of our culture.
Mhm.
We should not let it we should not let people just remove sati practice."
Mhm.
But they still did it. Today, people don't be like, "Oh no, bring back sati."
That's true.
Right? You can talk about recent times. Let's say triple talaq,
Yeah.
which was banned because it's not essential practice.
What is triple talaq?
So basically, let's say we're a Muslim couple
Uh-huh.
and I'm the male counterpart. I can just say talaq, 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 and we're divorced.
Oh, okay, okay.
In
Got
three
it.
So
different
that's the
locations,
Shaira
basically.
Bano case
Yeah.
of 2017,
Okay, fine.
which is
Got
when they banned triple
The
talaq.
triple talaq system.
Okay, fine.
And to add to that point, right? Yes, it does interfere with the religious practices of various religions, and it is one of the major arguments, because India being one of the most diverse country, it's a secular state.
Mm-hmm.
Now, implementing UCC is going to be a big struggle, because Ambedkar, when he proposed UCC, right, it had to be proposed from the initial stage itself. It cannot be proposed like the BNS itself. They cannot
What is
amend
BNS?
Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita.
Okay, is it a
Right.
political
It's a
party?
No,
successor
It's
to
a
the IPC.
IPC.
Okay,
so they're
got it.
changing the
Got it.
names and few laws under that.
So when I
Okay.
mentioned criminal law, which
Uh-huh.
is codified as IPC, it was now
Okay.
changed to the BNS under this
Okay,
government.
got it.
Right.
Got it. I'm sorry, guys. Thanks for bearing with me. Yeah, you can go
Yeah.
on.
So essentially, what was I saying?
Yeah, you were saying that.
Diversity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
diversity. Thank you. So India being a secular state, not
Mhm.
everyone can find the sweet spot, right?
Yeah.
Ambedkar, again, he wanted to put it in like when UCC was supposed to be implemented in the beginning stages, but
Mhm.
like when you suddenly put it out, there's going to be public outrage, because
Mhm.
again, they have been practicing these set of laws, or the religious practices for a very straight amount of time. As soon as this is implemented, it's going to go against their religious practice. So that's where the initial argument arises,
Mhm.
right? Now, UCC in other terms, like Succession Act or anything regards. So, I think the Muslim community, they don't have to pay tax for any gift
Mhm.
related documents, or uh, as such.
Got it.
So, if those are implemented commonly, that makes sense. But
Mhm.
when it comes to religious practices, that's when the drift happens, right?
So,
Okay.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember something like there was some controversy about polygamy in Muslim culture as
Uh,
well, right?
Right.
So, what was that about?
No, wait, I'll tell you. In 1952, there was a case. I believe the Union of India was his Narsappa something.
Mhm.
I'm not well read about it. Where this Hindu person,
Uh-huh.
he gets charged for bigamy. So
Mhm.
basically, he's married, he gets married again,
Mhm.
and they charge him.
Okay.
So his argument is that my Muslim counterpart
Mhm.
can get married to 4 people and not it won't be considered as a crime,
Mhm.
which I think is not fair.
Okay.
So that was his argument.
if I'm
Okay.
What's up, Zaid?
Okay.
if I
So,
may,
yeah.
so I was not. I okay. So continuing from what Albi said, so
Mhm.
he made a Ambedkar quote. What Dr. Ambedkar also said, in a sense, and during the Constituent Assembly debates that were going on, is that look, you already have a criminal law that has been codified. People are not complaining about it. You have both the substantive and procedural criminal law,
Mhm.
the IPC and the CRPC, that is. So why not having UCC? So that's also something Dr. Ambedkar
Got it.
said along with this. The thing is this, although I partially agree with both of them that, well, yeah, diversity is one point, and that, yes, we need a uniform law. But the thing is this, you're not talking about everything under the sun and every practice under the sun.
Mhm.
When you're talking about a UCC, you're broadly only talking about those civil topics, which is, again, family, uh, that's marriage,
Mhm.
children, property, etc.,
So
etc.
with the inheritance especially, I remember reading something where in Indian culture, inheritance is roughly equal between the wife and the children, or something similar to that. And in Muslim culture, typically you need to have a will or something similar. And in absence of that, it gets split up in a pretty awkward way, I think. Because if there is a male heir, I think the wife gets about 1/8% of the inheritance. One not percent, like 1/8 of the inheritance, and if there's a male heir and a female heir, then the male gets way more than the female heir. I can't remember the
See
exact
now,
quotation, but
what you just mentioned, right? I think it's not fair.
no, but isn't
Which
that a familial matter? How can you say that it's not fair if the family itself is fine
okay,
with it?
let's take the same issue with the Hindu community.
Okay.
Let's take siblings. You have a baby girl, a baby boy.
Uh-huh.
They grow up and the property is split into half,
Uh-huh.
which before was not there.
Uh-huh.
The male counterpart got more. I think it should be the same with the Muslim community as well,
Mm-hmm.
where let's say the boy
Mm-hmm.
gets how much ever property, and the female is only assured 50% of that.
But shouldn't it be an internally, like, by the definition, it's a family matter, right? So shouldn't it be up to them to decide those things? Like, why does the state have a say in that?
Because the state essentially will have a say on that,
Mm-hmm.
because even if it's a family matter, the family can have disputes within themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where does the dispute get resolved? To
Court.
tribunals or
Okay.
courts, etc.
Got it.
Now, when they come to the court, they can't say that it's a family matter. It should be solved
Yeah.
within the community.
Got
It
it.
should be solved by the court or the state, right? So that is how. the family matters also come to the state.
Mhm.
Keeping that aside, you mentioned inheritance, right?
Yeah.
Inheritance, I think there is a concept in Hindu law that is, uh, if the family business,
Mhm.
right, cannot also be taxed, something like that, something
Mhm.
along those lines. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that aspect itself, right, can can be applied and cannot be applied. So those are the aspects that should be applied under UCC. But when it
Mhm.
comes to polygamy, marriage, right, that is interfering with the religious belief, right? The Muslims believe that they can marry up to 4 wives, but Hindus at the same counterpart they cannot.
Got it.
No, see, it's like you just said, they believe they can marry. So it's not an essential practice.
Mhm.
Just like the same argument with the triple talaq.
Hmm.
It's not like if you don't have multiple wives, it's not like you're going against your religion.
No,
You can still be monogamous and progress.
no. Talking about the inheritance part again, in how Hindu tradition goes is, at least to a greater part of northern India, the son is considered the heir. I mean, these two are law students. I'm not so,
Uh-huh.
but there are some communities. For example, the Nair community in Kerala, or even in Meghalaya, there's a Jhansi community,
Mhm.
which follow different practices. Where the female, it goes from the mother to the daughter.
Mhm.
Even about polygamy, it's not only about polygamy. In Dehradun, there's a community that considers themselves to be the heir of the Pandavas. I mean,
Higher?
not heirs, sorry, descendants of
Higher.
Successors.
Okay, higher.
descendants,
Okay, okay. I kept
descendants.
hearing higher, higher. I'm like, is it another family, bro? What are you talking about?
Sorry, the
Yeah,
Tamilian
no
in
worries,
you
no
is
worries.
coming out.
Yeah.
Sorry. So there's a community that thinks that they are the descendants of the Pandavas. Hence,
Mhm.
they practice even polyandry,
Mhm.
multiple husbands, same wife.
Okay, got
So
it.
all this is there in the Hindu community itself. I don't need to go to the Muslim community to say there's this much diversity between these two
Mhm.
populations. But the question you need to ask is it worth preserving that diversity?
Got it, got it.
See, I partially agree, but I don't think diversity will be affected if you bring in UCC. It's not like saying, okay, now we have a uniform civil code. Even the Muslims, while getting married, they have to do the Saptapadi thing. That's
Mhm.
not what we're saying. We're just removing practices which are derogatory. And I
But how
think,
can you classify that? Like, how, which body has the right to say
right,
this practice is derogatory, that practice is
right,
not?
that's a good question. Now you have something called the 22nd Law Commission.
Uh-huh.
So the one previous to 21st said UCC at this point will not be fruitful. You'll have a big ruckus,
Mhm.
etc. But the 22nd Law Commission, they're actually trying to introduce UCC.
Mhm.
What they're doing, they have the Muslim community,
Mhm.
they have the Hindu community, the Parsi community, the Sikh community. They're
Mhm.
taking input from everyone.
Okay.
So they have equal laws,
Okay,
which I
got it.
think is good.
Okay.
So wait, there's this part where you said that it's not going to interfere with religious beliefs, right? Now, there has been cases in Kerala where the men there's a particular temple. If I'm there's men aren't
Sabrimala.
allowed
Okay.
throughout the year.
Sabrimala.
No,
No,
no, that's woman.
that's women.
Yeah.
That's the other
Huh.
way around.
The
So
female
female
version.
version of Sabrimala, right? So like that. So there are some counterparts like that. But when it comes to the Muslim community, right, in mosques or Islamic places of holiness, the women aren't allowed at all. So
Okay.
if the UCC is implemented, like, won't it technically affect their religious belief because they believe codifiedly that the women aren't allowed inside the mosque?
I think they
Got
are.
it. But then
Call Zaid.
I think I think the one thing that we didn't discuss yet is the fact that UCC is not binding, right? It's somewhat of
No,
it's
today
regulatory, right?
today it's not binding because
Uh-huh.
it's a directive principle of state
No,
policy.
but even in Article 44 of the
Yeah,
Constitution, where it was introduced, was it supposed to be a binding agreement?
see,
Is it?
that's the
See,
thing. Article 44 is a DPSP,
Uh-huh.
where
What is the DPSP, bro?
DPSP is.
Please, bro.
Direct.
I'm not a law
I just said,
student.
I just.
Ishwar is not a law student. They all are not law students.
It's like a directive principle of state policy. Before when they were having that discussion,
Mm-hmm.
how UCC was supposed to be introduced when India got independence, there was that whole debate whether it should be a fundamental right.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, they put it as a DPSP.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think that's like I would agree with that one thing where Albi said it should have introduced back then. It would have been easier. But I think today also you can introduce
Okay, got it.
UCC.
see, the question when you introduce it is to what extent. So, for example, we have the Indian Succession Act,
Mm-hmm.
which applies not to, I think, Hindus and Muslims, but other communities like Christians, Parsis, so on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, see, it is a uniform code for all of them combined. how succession works for them. But there are exceptions to it. Same with the Uttarakhand UCC that was recently introduced. There are exceptions to that too. It says it doesn't apply to the tribal communities and so and so places. So when you have exceptions to like that, that is still respective of the diversity. So when I talk about a UCC, the question is to what are the exceptions that you will make in it, and the second question is, if it's going to be an absolute UCC on everyone, isn't that homogeneity, and isn't that, in a sense, I'm going to get hated for saying this, communism?
Okay.
Uh,
I think that's a very bold statement
Is
to make. But I see.
fellow Mallu here.
Yeah. Wow. Even I'm a Malu. Are you Malu?
No,
Ah,
Bro,
okay.
what is
Naat
this Naat
lavade.
Lavadiya?
Yeah.
Naat lavade.
Naat lavade.
Huh. Yeah. You were saying.
I just learned how to say
That's
paramburi.
also kind of offensive, I think, because you're just saying I'm a Malu, therefore I'm a residing a body on communist matters. Okay, that's a joke.
You
That's
guys have too much
Yeah,
representation.
let's just not go there.
Malu communists are not
Safer side.
communists.
Okay, bro, fine.
Okay, so UCC.
UCC.
Coming back.
Yeah. So I think what we wanted to look at after that, we're talking about how you said something about DPS East or something, and then a DPSC, if I remember correctly, and then you spouted some more legal stuff. But what I'm getting from that is, it would have been better if it was implemented at the start. Now there might be some difficulties.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, you can do a state-wise implementation, like how, let's say, Uttarakhand
Goa,
is doing
right?
it.
No,
Goa,
because
yeah.
Goa, it is implemented.
No,
in
Goa,
No.
it was there from before. Like when they
Because
got
it's the
liberation.
Portuguese law, right?
Yeah, they got liberation in 1961, and they've been following the Portuguese Civil Code, which is very similar to UCC.
No, the
UCC.
Where
problem-
religion does not come into the picture when you're
It
getting.
does.
See.
No, the problem with the Goa implementation is it always classifies members as either Christian and non-Christian. It's only Christian and non-Christian from what I
Okay.
understand, which is not a good example for you to take forward in a debate.
see,
It's
Uttarakhand.
better. Yeah, better
Uttarakhand.
example would be Uttarakhand.
No, wait.
yeah.
But at
One
the
thing
same time,
about Uttarakhand, they've put this one clause where they say something about live-in relationships.
Mhm.
That like any religion, if you're in a live-in relationship with, let's say, your partner, you have to get it registered.
What
Bro,
relationship?
Live-in.
A live-in relationship. Bro,
Like,
you're
He's a
with
kid,
your
bro. He's a kid.
Live-in.
live in, like
Oh,
you're with your
live
partner
in.
under the
Bro,
same
I
roof.
think- Okay, maybe this is my fault. I heard ayr, and then I heard.
No, bro, you're a kid. That's the
Okay,
only
Yeah,
bro,
see,
I'm
thing.
sorry.
that's something I do not agree
apologize
with.
for my lackluster auditory
It's fine, man.
faculties.
Chill.
I do not support that.
Okay.
See, if two people want to live together, I don't think they should get it registered
Mhm.
and then make a big deal. That clause basically says if you're under 21 and you're living with your partner, your parents should be informed.
Okay.
It's like, bro, what are you guys doing? What
no, like-
PTM in a state level? Like,
I mean, from what I understand, although not a law student, again giving that a caveat, there should be a legal personality given to a live-in couple. Hence, they should be registered.
Okay.
Now
that is the true defense that.
Yeah, but to what extent should it go? Whether the parents should be informed this should happen, that is a different debate altogether.
Got it.
But they need legal personality under law because a lot of cases arise from this very matter of live-in relationships.
Is
Got
it
it.
weird because when you said live-in relationship, I thought about the LGBTQ, right? So
Yeah, I think that's valid
that's
because
a-
that was also a question for me.
Yeah.
Because at this point in time, what do you even classify as a live-in relationship, right?
Right.
If I'm rooming with my college roommates or something, given the fact that like I could be homosexual or something similar, then like how do you classify that? How would you move forward working with a situation like that?
forget that. When I got to this podcast, I was thinking, okay, UCC, it'll be like a Hindu-Muslim debate.
we don't have Z, so it's fine.
No, the problem with
Call
that,
Mr. Sheriff.
No, the thing is that particular article or clause which he cited, it says that they'll be given similar personality to that of a married couple. Similar personality.
Got it.
So that is what you have to debate on. Does it require that much of legal personality is the question.
No,
Got
see,
it.
what changes in Uttarakhand is first marriage.
Uh-huh.
Now, in India, if a Muslim marries a 15-year-old, it's not a crime.
Mhm.
But if the same Hindu does it, child marriage,
Okay,
which is completely derogatory,
Mm-hmm.
and which is what will be changing in Uttarakhand.
Got
So
it.
that's how the Muslim population is affected. Even polygamy,
Yeah.
even the Hindu population also affected.
Yeah.
Now, let's say the succession wise,
Uh-huh.
inheritance wise, there are few changes, which I think we should be seeing in today's world.
If I can ask both of you, or even you, sir,
Yeah.
as law students, is there a conflict
Fourth
between?
mention, law students.
I mean,
Okay, is that STEM
I'm-
superiority, bro? It's STEM
I'm a
superiority.
pest student. I have to establish superiority
Yeah.
complex.
Yeah.
Just joking. So how does right to equality conflict at its core with the right to religious freedom?
See,
Vague question, but right in this context.
I'm gonna reiterate what once Dr. Subramania Swami said. It's very funny where he says equality only applies to equals.
Okay, fine.
That's
So I
smart.
think that's as much mileage we'll get out of this debate because we covered a lot of stuff, and I think we're kind of straying from the topic as well. So in
Right.
conclusion, what do you guys think you took away from this? Like, so for me, what I learned was that, again, obviously, it's a very complex issue, but bottom line is that there are certain practices that can be considered personal laws that some of you think that it's not, it should be handled under UCC, like the child marriage one and polygamy, perhaps stuff like that. But other religious practices, they shouldn't come under their purview, right? Because that way you kind of preserve diversity and cultural heterogeneity, right?
See, I see it two different ways. One, you bring in UCC, you get uniform laws.
Mm-hmm.
But without UCC, also you can have uniform laws. Like what Ishwar was saying, you have contracts, you have IPs and everything, which are treating everyone equally.
Got it.
What you can do is you can like pick on those laws
In the
and-
aspect of civil cases,
Huh.
right?
Got it.
and
Yeah.
then you can have uniform laws without the concept of UCC.
Okay, got it. So, thank you guys. That was super informative. Do you guys want to wrap it up? Anything extra to add? Anything to conclude? Summarize?
How about we give one conclusion statement each?
Yeah,
Yeah.
done.
Start.
Okay, me. Okay. So, in conclusion, the solution, in my opinion, would not be a nationwide implementation, but instead a state-wise. Because I come from a state, Karnataka, which has
Oh.
varying cultures.
Damn, that's information.
Rajkumar
Yeah.
Sufyan. So we have varying cultures. Whether you go from Bangalore to Coorg to Mangalore, then Dharwad, everything's different.
Yeah.
So when your state itself is so diverse, I can't imagine how more diverse is the entire country.
Got it.
Right.
So state-wise implementation for one, and we will have to debate out what are the exceptions you'll give
Got it.
if it's uniform at
Yeah.
all.
Right.
Albi?
I would say like UCC could have been applicable if it was applied from the initial times, and also right now it's very hard because of the diversity that exists. Secondly, UCC in the other countries it functions only because there is not much diversity in the countries that have UCC,
Got it. Got
right?
it.
And fine, I had to say something. I forgot. Thank you.
Okay.
Wait,
never
I-
mind.
I
Thank
gave
you.
my
Bro,
conclusion.
We have to wrap
Ouch,
up, bro.
bro.
So,
Alright.
I've decided, discretion of the chair, I'm not taking your opinion on this.
Ouch.
Okay?
Ouch.
Just
Alright.
because I'm a Hindu.
Oh, wow. That's why. That's crazy. Okay. I think we can say this is the first episode of Teens Talk Politics coming to a close.